Hello, everybody, and welcome to what I expect will be the shortest episode of the Nen Show. This is your host, Craftsdwarf, here with my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
We're no longer 30 seconds apart, or whatever. The tech issues are fun. It's a metaphor for how we were we were both not really in sync with the reading. Haha.
Yeah, I mean, and we're also not in sync with the comments, because I looked and I didn't see anything of note, really. Mostly people complaining about the material, which is like, okay, sure, that's fine.
I thought that
Whatever.
The one comment by DBZ Mackie was at least interesting as far as you know, like, perspective on someone who was watching the Super anime while it was airing, and sort of like the things that the manga doesn't, I guess, like, replicate through like its monthly format. So I don't know, that seemed kind of neat. I was thinking about it too, that it's like it only hit me like the other day that at least I don't think I mentioned this in the last episode, that like Dragon Ball Super would have started airing like maybe a year after I actually got into anime. So this whole time, like, right, from my perspective, it was just sort of a thing that was happening and I just wasn't interested in it. So I think it's, I guess, interesting to hear that. And you're still not interested in it. So I guess it was at least interesting to like hear that perspective of like, oh, this is why it was a big deal for like, you know, like that certain like portion of fans. I don't know.
No, I mean, like, that's, yeah, especially with just the way, especially anime is consumed by, like, you know, a lot of fans really jump on, like, the seasonal stuff, right? So, like, the fact that Dragon Ball, like, did have this, you know, anime adaptation, or the sequel that went on for over, you know, straight for over 2 years, and the manga is still ongoing, like, you know, it's still able to sort of be relevant in a way that, like I think Bleach is interesting in comparison to, like, Naruto as well, because they both started around the same time, but Boruto's still going, so Naruto still has this like level of relevancy that Bleach doesn't, even though Bleach was comparably successful at the time. Right, and so here you have Dragon Ball, which is an even older series that's still, you know, by having all these ongoing things, is still able to be like relevant. And of course, not even just because, like, you know, it's big in its own way, but yeah. Because, yeah, I watched, like, 3 episodes of the Super anime, and I'll get back to it. I do want to check it out in full and see what it adds and changes and stuff, or what's different about it. Because, like, it's not even really changes, because they're not adapting each other. They're both sort of, like, going off of Toriyama's, like, outline, basically, and sort of doing their own takes on it. So, anyway, so, yeah, I guess getting into the reading, the arc starts off with Goku doing some of his, you know, fighting thugs and just being really fucking strong. Vegeta's training. And, like, I was just honestly kind of want to get through this as fast as possible because, like, you already kind of told me. Usually I ask, like, what'd you think of the reading? I kind of already know. But, what did you think of the reading?
Yeah, it was, like, there were certainly, I guess, moments in it that I thought were kind of interesting or kind of neat. For the most part, yeah, like, you know, by the end of it, it's like, okay, we've read 67 chapters of Dragon Ball Super. I don't feel like I gained anything from the experience. It's like, before reading Dragon Ball Super, it was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in this. And then after reading Dragon Ball Super, it's like, yeah, I'm not really interested in this.
I mean, I would say I'm a little interested in it, but it's still like I'd give it like a 4 or a 5. Like, it's still not like it's better than Jacko. At least I can say that much.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
Holy shit, Jacko's fucking
I mean,
boring.
yeah, like I said, it's not that there aren't like interesting things in here. It's just sort of, I guess I feel like I didn't get enough out of it that, like, I feel like my time could have been better spent reading something else.
Yeah, at least it's not, like, horribly frustrating as Kinnikuman.
Yeah.
But, like...
like, at the very least now, like, if somebody mentions, like, Dragon Ball Super, I mean, like, because Dragon Ball Super is Dragon Ball in general is one of those, like, broader reaching anime, so, like, if I ever come across, like, a coworker or, like, some random person... and they're just like, oh yeah, I've seen anime, I've seen Dragon Ball Super, I can be like, okay, you know, at least, like, have something of a conversation and, like, know what's being talked about.
Right. Like, now you do know what Jiren's deal is, and Zamasu, and, and now you know things that anime watchers don't know because you read the arc that hasn't been animated yet. Right. So, but yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And, it is because, yeah, Super is a pretty, it's Dragon Ball. It's still being watched a lot. It's probably being watched by people who never even watched the original Dragon Ball or read it, which is making me wither away into dust at the thought. But, but yeah, because like with me, it's like, yeah, there's definitely interesting parts, like or moments that I like, or even just aspects that I like. Like, to speak more generally, one thing I do think is really interesting about Super in comparison to the original Dragon Ball is sort of like how I almost want to say like Super is maybe even doing certain things in some ways to kind of like, because of the time period it came out, and by that I mean like how there's a lot of different powers, and there's a lot of different expansions on the old sort of like power system.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost like, because I like maybe I have a different perspective if I read like way more old manga, but I definitely feel like powers today are just more complex overall than like early Dragon Ball or just Dragon Ball in general. Even Fist of the North Star. Like some of these older series just had simpler power sets, because I would attribute the shift to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which allowed for more varied and unique powers overall, like Yu Yu Hakusho being a great example of a series that had a simple power set, but then Togashi directly mentioned, hey, I took influence from JoJo for the Chapter Black when he added these more specific unique powers. So like Dragon Ball, here you have this series that started, back in the day, did have this relatively simple power set, and now you have a bit more going on in that way. And I wonder if maybe that is part of like a modern, sort of it's becoming more to, I don't know. It's just something I thought about how like I feel like, it wouldn't have been like this if this had just been a sequel that like just a continuation of the original Dragon Ball. I feel like. So, it was just something I was thinking about because, like, there's just, especially the Universe 6 where, like, yeah, here, let's just introduce literally dozens of new characters.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so a lot of them have, like, their unique designs and abilities and stuff, and I appreciate that on some level, So, just something that was sticking out to me as I was reading it.
There are also just, like, a lot of little details which, are obviously like little nods to the fans of like, here's a callback to something that you'd pick up on, like like when Kale has like her like Broly mode form,
yeah,
and it's like, oh, the legendary, or I forget what they called the form.
Yeah, the legendary Super Saiyan, I believe is what it's called, right?
Yeah. And so it's maybe a little weird to, I guess, think about it in the bigger picture. I don't know, but like the way it just all sort of comes together, I guess, is interesting in that way. Like seeing the way that this stuff gets sort of like reused and re-implemented, I guess, is what makes it kind of neat.
Also, smaller thing, because I was thinking about the old like Goku bad dad thing, because I think just going on the original series, I think it's very overstated. But then there's so many moments here where Goku's like, like we got like, what's a kiss? Or he's just like, he just wants to go off and train, and there's a little volume insert I had with Vegeta like folding laundry. Like Vegeta's a good dad and a good husband in ways that Goku kind of isn't in Super.
I really don't think I needed the detail that Goku obviously has kids but has never kissed before. It's like, cool, thanks for putting that in my head.
It's so... And like there's a whole thing with Vegeta really wants to be there for the birth of his, second child, and Goku's like, I've never been there for the birth of either of my kids. Or no, at least not Goten.
Well, yeah, because there's... No, he said neither of them, because there's even the part where...
That's fucked.
Well,
because he would have been alive.
Or maybe he was there, but not, like... There, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, because
I just realized, like, because Goten, that makes sense. He was fucking dead. What's he gonna do? Right?
Yeah, but
with Gohan, he would have been alive.
Yeah, and it was like during the time skip where there was peace and nothing was happening. Yeah, that is a little weird. See, I feel like Super has details like that where it's like if I actually stopped and thought about it, maybe I would be like, hey, wait a minute. But I don't know. Those usually aren't the types of details that like.
No, I didn't even think about it before. And I guess the other thing with that is like, see, because Super does, because it does exist so like distant from the original Dragon Ball, like, like the fact that there are so many, like 17 never having heard Goku's voice, right? Like they go out of their way to address that, and that's probably something that like it was published, and now people had like there's been a sort of like meme culture, like especially with it, I recognize it in the Western fan base. So Dragon Ball kind of exists in that a space separate from itself. So it's also kind of like so yeah. I just wonder like how much of Super is influenced by like Japanese community Dragon Ball memes. Like, do they have a meme about Goku being a bad dad, and is that being like used here because it's just sort of like taken as in like at face value, sort of like just just because like we do like Lindsay Ellis has talked about in like her Beauty and the Beast video about how like the kind of way online criticism is kind of influenced like actual productions. So I don't know, it's just something I'm thinking about. Just look, it's better than talking about the reading. But anyway, yeah, Goku bothers Zeno, and he gets the tournament started because like they do establish that like they were already going to cull the universes, and Goku like accidentally gave them a fighting chance. But and yeah, I am just like with the fact that there's just so many new designs, there's just a level where I'm just at like like they're just shitload of new characters, like that's not easy. And
I know
like,
that there would be like the little panels where it's like, here are all of the gods, or here are all of these characters, and I just skimmed over them. I'm like, I don't care. They're like, not gonna matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they do matter, then really I'll find out later.
Yeah, but poor Dragon Ball Wiki editors who are like, God damn it, another new chapter, another fucking dozen characters to add. But yeah, we get a bunch of fighting between the between the gods, but they're too strong. So they do Goku and Toppo do like an exhibition match to further build up to the actual tournament. Oh yeah, and there's a whole like weird detail about like mortal levels, and like some of the universes are exempt because like their mortals are at a high enough mortal level. I'm like, they don't explain this at all, and it's like, okay, sure, I guess I don't understand. But the god, like basically Beerus and the Lord are being lazy or something. They're like second from the bottom. So yeah, anyway, they go around gathering the fighters. We get a little build up for Jiren. Oh yeah, and there's also Oob, who becomes gets mentioned in this first arc, and then actually like is even a little bit relevant at the end in the climax of the second arc. Yeah, what did you think about 17 coming back? Because
well, more on like the Oob thing first.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm going too fast.
The thing, the way, I don't know if, I'm sure that there are other people out there who share this opinion that like this like pocket that Dragon Ball Super occupies, where it's like, yeah, all of this stuff definitely happened in between the Boo arc and the ending of the series. And I'm like, just retcon the fucking ending. Just do anything at this point. I don't think people will care. So yeah, Oob coming back and them like finding a way to incorporate him without incorporating him, I'm just sort of like, I see what you're doing here. But I'm just kind of like tilting my head and just like,
Well, now that you mention that, I do wonder if at a point, because I've seen art for the new movie, and Pawn is older, and she she's not just a baby anymore. Yeah, so she's,
I also
so
kind of would just, I think it would be interesting to just see Oob be a character, and no, I'm not going to watch Dragon Ball GT.
No, well, GT kind of apparently because Oob basically he's a jobber. He just he only gets his ass beat. So it's he doesn't even he's not, from what I remember of GT, he's not significantly important
he's
to
this
thing
the
at
next
all.
savior of the earth. No.
Right, which I feel like Super would be more likely to be more respectful of that original ending, and okay, yeah, Goku, especially now with the whole God of Destruction and thing is Oob will be the next god of destruction, right? Like, because there's it's very well established in this reading that the gods of destruction are like former mortals. Like Toppo of from Jiren's group is going to be the next god of destruction of his universe. And that just makes sense, I think, for Oob, because like he was formerly Kid Buu, a literal destroyer of worlds. So him being this more like reined in god of destruction is really fit. So like I can see Super like doing the end of Dragon Ball and then going beyond that and actually doing some neat stuff with that, even if I'm still probably not going to like it a lot, but it would be interesting to see that, especially like with the because then I feel like it would have more freedom, because at this point it does have to be like, okay, the end of Dragon Ball still happens and we have to be consistent with this, but in theory, if they go beyond that, then they'd have more freedom, like GT did, right? And I know I have not watched GT. Maybe I will at some point, but if I'm gonna watch Dragon Ball, it's gonna be Super first, just because that's the relevant one right now. Yeah. so yeah, they're like they keep mentioning Oob, and I do wonder if it's going to matter more in the future, basically. So,
but yeah, as you were leading me in before that, 17 coming back. I don't like his redesign. Look how they massacred my boy. I mean, like, he's the park ranger. Haha, I get it. It's a meme. He's a park ranger. He's ranging those parks, and now he's as strong as, like, I don't know, one of the like top fighters. But it's fine. And like, it's cool seeing him. The only detail I didn't really care for was like they seem to go out of their way to mention that, like, oh, when Krillin wished to have the bombs taken out of the androids, that might have restored 17's humanity. And I'm like, come on. 17 and 18 weren't even really, like... Sure, they were villains, but they were just, like, kids doing things. Like, I mean, I don't know. It just felt like a little needlessly, like, oh, this was the only way that 17 could have regained his humanity. And it's like, really?
Right. Unless maybe it was a translation thing and they're still speaking in the more like abstract sense, where it's like, because 17 does say that, like, okay, he owes Krillin a debt, and that's part of why he's fighting. Right? Like, in that sense, then, like, okay, here's Krillin doing something good for someone he has no reason to do good for, and 17 like becoming more good because of that. Like, that makes sense. Just like without like, but if it's like, oh, literally restored his, like, it depends on like. I don't know how the original line was in Japanese, but I understand where you're coming from, because it could be read that way. But, it doesn't have to be, I guess, from my perspective.
Yeah, so, that's true. That's true. I mean, I thought it was interesting that he came back and, like, he just wants a boat. If I win, I'm gonna wish for a boat.
See, I remember the memes for that from the anime when it was airing, because it ends and you see 17 on a boat.
Yeah.
And now I have the context. So there's that.
It also, it's the sort of thing that, like, I'm pretty sure would have been referenced in, like, Dragon Ball Z Abridged at some point, because, like, they would have had I know him being a park ranger definitely comes up as just sort of, like, things that they can, like, cheekily, is that even a word? Things that they can, just sneak in there. But also, something I was disappointed with, like, I showed you the cover page of just, like, 18 and 17, and it's like, their designs are both significantly less interesting. There's just, I liked their outfits in the past a lot. And now
they
it's
definitely
just, like,
have, I feel like,
now they,
maybe
well, I mean, like, I
outfits
understand, because, like,
draw,
18 is, like, like, middle-aged mom now, I guess. And 17 is just, he's a dad, he's a park ranger, so I mean, like,
he has a family that we never see.
So it's like, the more I talk about this, the more I'm, like, talking myself into appreciating the designs on that level. But it's just like, they looked so cool. What, they took away 17's scarf?
No, it was key to his character. No, that's right. There was even a whole thing about how he likes this outfit and he doesn't want to change, where 18 goes through a number of different outfits. He's out of character. They ruined it. He's supposed to be wearing the exact same thing. They'll bury him in that outfit, I swear. They ruined his character. That's what I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, moving on, we also see Universe 6, and we get introduced to, like I said, is, our Kale and Caulifla, I guess they're the best Universe 6 characters. Is that a high bar? Not really, but...
Yeah, I think that the most interesting part of the reading for me was, the Universe 6 Saiyans. Like, I thought that, Kale and Caulifla and, Kaba, they were sort of all, they did something, so that was neat. They're kind of like, I don't even know if they're like secondary protagonists, but they kind of are like the only other team where it's like, hey, we know these characters, we can root for these characters.
Mm-hmm. Right, even if ultimately they are against Universe 7 at the end of the day, they're not bad, and we know who they are. Even Jiren, he's supposed to be a hero of justice, but he does end up in this sort of antagonist role, but so it's hard, but it's still hard to root for him because they're just so absolutist and just the way they kind of operate, where at least with Kaba, he's a good boy, he's right, so we do know that character. And yeah, he ropes in the Saiyans too, so
it also probably says more about me than it does the series itself, that oh hey, a female combatant in my Shounen battle manga,
two even,
yes, this
until
is true.
they fuse and become one. So anyway, they follow up on the resurrection of F, where they get Frieza, and it's so surreal. I knew this happened, but it's so with Vegeta and Piccolo, they're them being working with the good guys is so normal after so long that's just it's just second nature. But seeing Frieza, who for literally for me, I was watching Dragon Ball early 2000s, right? So we're talking 20 years of me just being yeah, Frieza is this character who has always been an antagonist. And so it's just weird seeing him fighting next to and alongside the main characters at this point. It's not a problem, obviously, but it's just this weird kind of dissonance, I guess, that I'm having.
I remember Mr. Fusion describing Frieza. I think this was about the Broly movie, but just Frieza being this sort of he's transformed into this mustache twirling Saturday morning cartoon villain, and I just think that's hilarious. I remember that that observation has just stuck with me over the years.
Okay, I can see how, just because he's still being a piece of shit, but also he's kind of ineffectual. He kind of has to be ineffectual because otherwise Goku's just gonna kill him again, and then he's out of the story, right?
Yeah, so he's just there being I'll always having that talk in the background of oh, don't worry, I'll be coming to kill you next, and it's yeah, okay, sure you will.
Right, and I guess for me, even though Frieza has I don't think that takes away from his presence on Namek or anything.
No,
and it's not he was one of my favorite antagonists. I do really like him, but I just prefer Cell and Boo as far, or actually, yeah, now I think about it, as far as the Z antagonist goes, main antagonist goes, he's probably my least favorite of the main four. But I still do like him, and I don't know, I don't mind seeing him like this, but because this is just normal Dragon Ball.
The thing that
right?
I remember mentioning in my in the video I made in 2019 about Dragon Ball is that Frieza was kind of at this point in Dragon Ball where the tone was at its most serious. Frieza and Cell don't really have as much of a comedic undercurrent to them as you get, but then the series wraps back around to being more comedic than at Boo, so it's okay, if we're gonna bring Frieza back with this sort of tone, he's got to kind of become a little more goofy.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point. It's been a while since I would have seen that video, if I did.
Making videos, imagine that.
Well, it's also that I don't know, was that the one you talked about, Broly?
Yeah.
Okay, then I didn't watch it because I still haven't seen Broly. But no, that's a good observation.
What do you mean you haven't seen Broly? She was in this arc.
No, wait, no. Actually, we did get a whole page of and the Broly movie happened, and then it just moves on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't mind Frieza's presence in the arc, but again, it's just that weird dissonance because of what I've known Frieza as for so long.
I think we've already talked enough that this isn't going to be the shortest episode.
Somehow. But also, real quick, so I wanna complain about the art for a second. Because do you remember those 2 pages where I think Krillin was complaining about
Oh, I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he's so round.
Yeah.
And he looks like a fucking baby. So here's the thing. That wasn't Toyotara's art. There in the end of the volume.
Yeah, those were Toriyama's correction.
It was a fucking Toriyama correction. You fucking boomer, put down the... No, I'm kidding. I respect Toriyama as an artist a lot. And a lot of his corrections, I think, works and makes sense and are better. But that one just is so jarring and weird that when I was reading, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with... Why does he... Because for some reason, he doesn't have, the pointed, angular parts on his chin. So he just has a really round face. And it just... It's so... that's all I want to, point out about the art. But that one specifically is just so weird, and it's a Toriyama correction. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, I remember seeing that as well, and I was just like, why does Krillin look like chibi-fied? He's he's so small.
Yeah, it's just such a weird art thing. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I had to say. So anyway, we get to the tournament. We get introduced to all these other fighters, and the arena is really simple, because I mean in the anime it's also simple, but it's this massive rock wasteland or something.
Mm-hmm.
But in the manga it's just a fucking top with a pillar in the middle, and it's basically just okay, you're fighting here, so no points for environment, but I guess it's simple thing that can be drawn easily, I guess, in both cases. So
I mean, it is a little interesting when you get into the later portions of the fighting, and it's there's a giant chunk of it missing, and then there are some little rock fragments kicked up. But yeah, it's relatively simple stage.
And also there's the whole thing where they can't fly, so they're all already, they're kind of a bit out of their element from the start.
Yeah.
But that goes for even Jiren's group can also fly, but they're limited too, so it's not like they're the only one handicapped in that way. But
I thought I remember it being mentioned somewhere that it's so it's more like a throwback to the days of old, and then you'd see characters doing using the energy beams to propel themselves back onto the platform, and I'm like, that's classic Dragon Ball. They did the thing.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff, but there's also it's so much fighting that I'm how much will we have to say? I don't know. You get Frieza interacting with Frost, and I was like, Frieza's gonna backstab him, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then Frieza backstabbed him, and I was like, yeah, I was expecting it. And yeah, I knew Jiren was strong, but it is kind of still interesting to I don't know, he's just he's really fucking strong. But we'll talk about Jiren more, I guess, at the end. When we get his context and stuff. Oh yeah, so I guess there's the other thing, because I'm already at the fucking 18 fighting the 3 girls from the one universe.
Yeah, that fight happened. I remember reading that and just being like, oh hey, this is the fight we're gonna do for the one female character in on this team. Cool, love that.
So yeah, what I've heard is that the anime actually handles this a bit better, where it actually sort of uses what's presented there for more of a conflict, because she has her whole thing about beauty, but 18 likes Krillin, who isn't exactly handsome, and that's kind of there in the manga, but I don't know, the way I heard it talked about, I thought I was expecting more, and so apparently that was just the difference in the way the manga handled it versus the way the anime handled it. So I am curious to what will happen when I get to that point, or how I feel when I get to that point in the anime. But yeah, it just happens, and I'm like, oh, I was expecting more because of the way I heard this fight talked about.
It was just the fight happens, and then 18 is immediately eliminated, and I'm like,
yeah.
Ugh.
Well, I guess first thing that happens is Tien and Krillin are eliminated, and it's so sad.
But not Roshi. Roshi's still there, and I'm like, hello. Roshi was around for so long. Why?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, he gets a moment.
Well, I mean, they were trying to do a teacher-student thing,
right,
which I have my own problems with. But
okay, interesting.
That's later.
But anyway, before we get that, we get Caulifla fighting Frieza for a bit. His hatred of Saiyans, of course. But then that Kale, of course, goes Legendary Super Saiyan, and eventually they do the Potara fusion.
I was gonna say you're skipping some stuff to just jump straight to Potara.
Sorry.
I mean, I guess I kind of
Yeah, I
already
know,
talked about, like, Kale's Broly mode, and she just, like, eliminates everybody.
Yeah, no, she just goes wild, and then
I
once
thought,
they, yeah.
like, their character dynamic was neat, that, like, Caulifla was, like, the very, like, outspoken, like, leader who, like, like, picked up her and, like, the friends, or, like, that group, like, she just sort of, like, brought them all together from, like, nothing. But then, like, at the same time that Kale is, like, repressing her, like, power because of, like, not wanting to upstage Caulifla because of, like, that debt or whatever, that, like, inferiority that she feels. I wonder if the anime expanded on the. I mean, I feel like the anime would have had the time to expand on a lot of.
No, this arc is insanely long in the anime. I think it's like somewhere like in the range of like 30 to 60 episodes. Maybe I gave a broad range because I really have no idea.
Because I feel like like I enjoyed their dynamic, and I thought that was cool. I just feel like it was there and then it was gone. Like maybe I don't know, with the anime having more time, if maybe there would have been like more time for it to sort of sink in, I guess. I also thought it was like, a fun detail that I did look it up in the anime because I wanted to see a little bit of them in the anime just to see like voices and stuff. And apparently they changed it I guess the manga came after for this arc, so the anime did it differently. But like in the anime, what's his name? Champa just like gives them the Potara earrings and is like, save these for an important moment or whatever. Whereas like in the manga, she just swiped him off the guy, which I think is like a more interesting like character detail.
Yeah, well, because they're supposed to be breaking the rules, right? And it with the fact that Caulifla's like a bandit, like that, that just makes sense for a character.
Yeah.
Just stealing and breaking rules, I think. So, that makes, I mean, again, I haven't seen how the anime handles it, but at least, like, it does seem like a weird, maybe it wasn't a rule in the anime, I have no idea. But anyway, they fuse, and so you sort of get Caulifla's, like, being used to having power and control with Kale's, uncontrolled power that she was never able to master because she kind of repressed herself. So that you get this, and well, it's also kind of neat how, like, she fights with Gohan, and, Gohan isn't using his Saiyan heritage, like, he's focusing more on his human heritage, so you have this battle of, like, Gohan's human strength as, like, a half Saiyan versus, like, Kefla's, or Kalefla's, I don't know how to pronounce it, like, Saiyan strength, so to speak, and they're kind of even, like, they just draw, like, because both of their ways are, like, a valid path to power, I guess, and I was like, oh, that's neat. That's something. Give me something. Yeah, I'll take any crumbs at this point.
One of the more interesting, like, conflicts in the arc.
Yeah.
And even though it was just like a short battle, the ideas were interesting.
Yeah, because I think after that, we pretty much just have Jiren left. Because, like, fucking, they just took out so many dudes that it's like, I think it's just that we're at the end at this point. So yeah, there's the moment the Roshi moment that you wanted to talk about, where they kind of go through, like, because Goku gets another lesson from Roshi, where, because he was talking, because Goku was more focused on, like, I guess, surpassing Jiren rather than just surpassing himself, and Roshi sort of shows off the Ultra Instinct-esque thing that helps Goku, like, overcome that wall. So what did you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, like, I guess I sort of liked the, building on all of the lessons of, like, the previous teachers that Goku would have learned, and, like, building that to a head here. The one thing I didn't really care for, though, was, like, a lot of the things Goku was saying about how, like, oh, I was the no good student, or something to that effect, and it's like, no, you weren't. You were, I don't know, and I don't know. It's just, I mean, like, felt
especially when considering Roshi, like, Goku's whole, like, ideology and the way he lives is just taken from that, like, those two panels of Roshi talking in, like, the first reading, remember?
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, this is just Goku's whole character. Like, how is that a bad student? Roshi was a massive, profound influence on Goku. Like, hello?
Yeah, so that's why it felt weird when he was, like, talking, when he was mentioning stuff like that, because it was, like, that is the basis of his character. What do you mean he was not adhering to it? I just felt confused, and I wasn't.
Yeah, and it seems like weird for if Goku was like, being like self-deprecating and looking down at like, oh, maybe I was like, Goku doesn't think about other people like that. He's selfish. He doesn't like he's not that self-conscious.
Goku's not a self-deprecating kind of character.
Right, like if he was gonna be like, oh, maybe you should fucking reflect on yourself as a husband before you reflect on yourself as a student of martial arts. Like, hello. Like, right? I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I didn't even really pick up on that, but that is just a really weird, un-Goku thing for him to think.
Yeah, so that was why I felt like this moment kind of fell flat for me. Because, I mean, like, yeah, the stuff with the mentors and how, like, all the lessons kind of coalesce, like, that is cool. It's just, like, the stuff to complement that I thought was, it was missing me.
Yeah, and I think, one other thing that I think is neat about that is, especially seeing Kami again, because Kami's dead.
Yeah.
And I mean, King Kai is also dead, but he's not, like, gone. He's just, like, he was in the afterlife anyway. He's just got a halo now. But, like, because especially when you think about... Because Jiren's whole thing is that his master died and he never got recognition from his master. Right? Where Goku kind of, like, doesn't have that grief and he's just, like, even, he's just moving on anyway, I guess. Potential point of contrast there. So it was something I noticed looking over it again. I also like the message with Vegeta where, because he's fighting Toppo and he kind of realizes that, like... He's been following Goku too closely. Like, he hasn't been focusing on his own strengths necessarily. He's just been kind of aping Goku. Which I thought was good because, like, especially coming to the next arc where they're able to, like, sort of diverge and have different strengths. I just think that just fits, right? Goku is Goku, so Vegeta's going to be Vegeta. And, so part of the reason he's been lagging behind is because he's only been trying to match up to Goku's success, which even, like, follows up on his stuff from, like, the Buu arc in an interesting way, because he did respect Goku, like, but he's just been following him for so long. So, I think that's neat. But yeah, I think next is just the Jiren fight. So, did you have anything to say about that, or...
No, I don't care about Jiren.
That's fair. Because, I mean, as far as, like, the point, like, yeah, Goku does Ultra Instinct, and, well, see, they really focus on the teamwork thing, and, like, I guess that's fine, but for me, that aspect isn't really what stood out to me, I guess, because, like, that's just how Dragon Ball's been since Vegeta, pretty much. Like, because Goku's never been able to beat any of his late let's just go through them real quick. Vegeta, he needed help from Yajirobe and Gohan. Frieza, he actually no, he did beat Frieza alone, but that was still after, like, Krillin's died and stuff, so never mind. He did beat Frieza more or less kind of alone. Cell, he didn't beat Cell. Gohan did. Buu, he used the Spirit Bomb and had support of Earth helped Goku for a change. Beerus, he didn't beat but he was still able to match him up with the Super Saiyan God, which required the help of everyone else. Zamasu, Hit, he didn't beat. Monica did. Goku gave up. Zamasu, Trunks got, like, the last hit, all things considered, and then before Zeno erased the universe. So, like, just having that focus, like, so you have Jiren who's being alone. Even though he's on a team, he's still kind of, like, separated from him, I guess. Like, they focused on that a lot, but I'm like, okay, that's just normal. But one thing I did notice that I thought was, I guess, a little bit more interesting was the, I just noticed how, like, because all the Universe 7 fighters, they're kind of fighting in this tournament for selfish reasons a lot of the time. Like, obviously, there's still the overall, like, selfless, they just want to protect their universe. But, like, fucking 18's there for money. And 17 is like, can I get a boat? I don't really care if the universe... Like, if the universe is destroyed, then, like, whatever. That's just the way of things. Like, they don't really... A lot of them don't even fucking care. Where Jiren, I guess, like, he does have this selfish desire for recognition from his, master, but he was kind of burying that, like, as his hero of justice and just, like, almost cutting him... Like, he wasn't recognizing his own selfishness, almost, where Goku... never hides his selfishness, I guess. So that was just a little something I noticed that I guess it's not really focused on, but, I thought it was a more interesting point of contrast than what we got.
Okay. Yeah, that does seem kind of interesting when you put it that way.
but yeah, because it's like, yeah, Jiren, he's strong, but they be well, and I guess the other thing about the teamwork aspect is that like the people who like help in the end, Frieza and 17 were formerly enemies, so you know, just the way Goku operates, you know, he's able to become friends even with enemies, and you know, not all of them, but you know, so yeah, but that's it.
I don't know why my brain just thought of something like broke friends with enemies. No, broke friends with benefits. Woke friends with enemies. I don't know what that means. Ignore me.
I don't either. So yeah, like I do think there was stuff I liked in there, but it's also just like even for the manga, like God, see that's why I'm a little afraid of the anime, because I think, you know, I've heard the anime like add some moments here or there that are probably more interesting, but also the arc is so long.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to expect.
I'd imagine it being really similar to like, I mean, obviously it was made as the anime first, so that's not, you know, that's not quite the same, but thinking of like, you know, like a Bleach arc where it goes on forever and there are all of these nonstop fights happening. And I picture this just being like that, where it's like no breaks in between. It's just like the same thing going for however many episodes it was. Was it long enough to be a year?
I'm gonna check actually. I'm gonna check because I and now I'm curious. It was episode 77 to 131, so it was about a year.
Yeah,
it was just over 50 episodes. So, Jesus. All right, yeah, that's a lot. Oh man. Like I hope I get something out of it. But oh. So anyway, now we get to the an arc I really haven't seen any discussion on in comparison to the... Oh,
that's right, that's right. I did actually want to say something about the ending of that arc, because, like, pretty much once Universe 6 was gone, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to stick. They're going to bring everything back at the end, and that's exactly what they did. I could just see people also feeling like this is a similarly, like, anticlimactic ending compared to, like, you know, how sort of the Goku Black arc, the future Trunks thing, Zamas, future Mirai, I don't know. That thought just kind of died.
No, well, from what I remember is just hearing people talk about the arc, I heard the idea that, yeah, everyone's just going to get wished back to, you know, like all the other, like that's just, you know, because they get a wish at the end.
I was trying to think of how that ties into like your point about like the selfish desires, and it's like, but in the end, the wish is a selfless.
It is a selfless point. That's true. Yeah. And unless it's selfish because Goku wants to fight these guys again, I don't know. Like, but I guess like that's the thing, is like they aren't real, like selfishness and selflessness aren't as like, they're not necessarily two sides of the same coin, because they can be, you can do both at the same time, I guess. So I don't know. But I'm not gonna dwell on it anymore. Even though maybe there's something there that I
leave your thoughts in the comments below.
Yeah. I mean, they can't be worse than the comments we got last time, can they? Actually, yes, they can. What am I saying? So anyway, a fucking alien has come to kidnap Majin Buu, and he's actually kind of strong, and we get the reason that we had to read Galactic Patrol Jacko, I guess. I mean, like, he was already a character, but he is, like, I mean, slightly more of a character here, I guess, or at least the Patrol is. But yeah, Moro is a guy who is in prison who stole the life of planets, and they need Boo, or rather, they need the Lord of Lords that he absorbed millions of years ago to defeat him.
I guess I thought that, like, his design was sort of interesting. I feel like the design gets less interesting over time as, like, he gets more, like, rejuvenated and loses, like, the old, like, scraggly beard. Actually, I don't even think that's the word I wanted to use, but it's fine.
No, I completely agree. Like, it's almost reminiscent of, like with Cell, he still, like, retains enough of his alien, like, bug features, even as Perfect Cell, that I don't, like, it doesn't bother me as much with him. Where in Moro's case, his, like, normal design, like, his final design is just so, like, compared to what came before, that I'm just like I don't know, like the goat horns and the beard, I don't know, I'm cool with it. Then he just loses it, like the horns are still kind of there, the beard's gone, it's just like, okay, whatever. Like, he just turns, like, he doesn't retain enough of what made his original design stand out, I think, in comparison to, like I said, in comparison to Cell, because Cell still has his bug wings, he has his bug head, he has his stinger, even though it's, like, retracted, like, he has the fucking, dots that killed Toriyama drawing-wise, apparently, but Moro is just like, that sure is a final design that's not that interesting. So, yeah, I absolutely agree.
I think another thing I sort of had with reading this, like in the beginning, he's like this old guy who's looking to regain his lost strength. And I'm like, okay, a Demon King Piccolo parallel, gotcha. But the rest of the arc was more of like a Namek Frieza arc parallel, which I guess was a thing.
I mean, that, like, this arc is kind of interesting in that, like, because we've had, like, space arcs before, like, Namek, but this one spans multiple planets, which I thought was interesting. Like, we just see lots of different races and, the whole Galactic Control, and, I don't know, I just kind of like the scope of it, I guess, in that way. It's kind of neat. And I guess as far as, like, the powers go, Moro does have, like, the fact that, like, Goku tries to sense him, and Moro is able to, hey, someone's looking for me. Like, he's almost, like, a little, like, he's just a good example of, like, how, the series is having these more varied powers in comparison, I guess. But yeah, you're right about the Namek thing, because they even go to Namek, and the poor fucking green aliens are genocided again. Like, they can't get a fucking break. But yeah, they fight. He's got his draining power. Moro's kind of like a perfect counter because he drains their ki, and they, so they can't keep their energy against him. So he's just like I said, a natural counter. Oh yeah. So anyway, Moro gets a bunch of the Dragon Balls, and Majin Buu finally does something.
Yeah.
And I actually like because he was like deliberately kept out of the last like arcs that he could have been involved in. I feel like for whatever reason, but hey, he's finally here. He's fighting Moro. He's his energy can't get drained, and he's strong, so he's able to like do some damage. And I'm like, hey, that's cool. Boo's doing something. And just the way Boo fights is silly and interesting. Like, he gets his head cut off, and then he turns his one of his hands into a head for some reason, and then he just punches him with his other hand. I'm like, what are you doing? Or he grows, like, the part where he grows a bunch of arms, and then he just, like, walks away from his arms that are still punching Moro is just so, I don't know, Boo's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, Moro wishes for the other prisoners to be freed, since he needs minions.
I like how he had his little sidekick character where it's very clearly like, you're gonna die. Like, that's the only way this can end. And they really like drag that out where it's like he could get away, but he doesn't, and then he dies. And it's like, yeah, that's rough, buddy.
Well, he worked for Frieza, so he's just out of one frying pan into another different frying pan. Like, he's just gonna die either way. But yeah, I'm just scrolling through, and it's like, yeah, they're trying to chase down Moro, and he's strong. The prisoners get free.
Yeah, this is the part where I stop having things to say, really, because like
I'm looking through.
I think Vegeta had some interesting stuff in this arc. I don't know. I think by this point, like with the other stuff to this point, like even with the Tournament of Power, it's like, okay, I've heard people talk about some of this stuff, so like I'm curious to finally find out like what this stuff is. Whereas this is like the first arc to not be in the anime, and I feel like I don't know if that was like part of the reason why I just sort of like lost interest, or if I was just happened to be burning out on the story of Super by this point. Because I did feel like there were certain aspects of like the Tournament of Power that felt like a conclusion, which I guess probably stems from that's where the anime left off. I don't know. I don't know if I could really explain why I got that feeling, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking through, and it's just like, things are happening, but yeah, it's not, like I mean, I guess it's, on the level of, like okay, cool. Like, I mean, it was kind of interesting seeing how this arc, like, it involves a bunch of different antagonists that are more, like, you know, like, even though they're obviously, you know, a lot of the minor ones are more, you know, they're minions, but I don't know, like, I felt like the robot was more, like, the robot one in particular, like, it's majorly important and, like, even apparently relevant to the next arc, right? So, like, it just feels kind of different from what I'm used to when it comes to Dragon Ball. I don't know, something about, like, the way the arc is structured and, you know,
I mean, yeah, definitely. There's a structure thing going on because, like, later in the arc, you even get the moment where Vegeta does a Goku and comes in at the last minute to, like, not save the day.
No, Vegeta 100% gets the best stuff. Yeah,
but yeah, because even like specifically the panels where like Goku is like broken on the ground and Vegeta just appears and looks back to him, and it's just like he's doing the thing. I thought for a second, I was like, is Vegeta gonna be the Goku of this arc? Is he gonna save the day? But of course that couldn't happen.
I think I saw a meme of that lately where it's like, no, Vegeta, you're never going to get to kill the big bad of an arc. Never. It's like, because, it does seem like for a moment, like, maybe Vegeta's going to be the one to save the day, but it's like, nope, that doesn't happen.
I remember that being, like, a weird nitpick I had with Resurrection F of just, like, oh, Frieza's back. We can get a cool moment with Vegeta. And then, like, Goku just runs in at the last second and kills him, and it's like, cool.
All right. Yeah, like, come on, give Vegeta a win, please. I mean, I guess, like, maybe, well, you know, like, because him winning doesn't necessarily mean he surpassed Goku, I guess, but that would be the concern, right, I suppose, but,
I did think it was interesting that they were both, like, trying to learn their own different techniques.
Yes.
There were even points later, where, like, you had the guy who was stealing people's abilities, and there's the part where he, like, copies Gohan's abilities, and I'm like, what abilities? What techniques does Gohan have that are unique to him? Because, like, a lot of the action of, like, older Dragon Ball is just variations of ki blasts. And, like, there's even a part where the antagonist does, like, Vegeta's Big Bang attack. And it's like, it's just an ordinary ki blast. And I'm like, okay, that's a little, like... Like, I've heard people, like, lob that criticism that it's just like, oh, these attacks have different names, but they're just ki blasts, more or less, or different variations.
They're different colors, too.
And so, like, him just making that point before firing the attack, I'm just like, oh, I see what you're doing here.
Right, and, like, but yeah, they do go off and train in their different ways where, you know, Goku learns the Ultra Instinct more from Maris, who's an angel, and, Vegeta goes to the planet that Goku went to learn the instant transmission, and Vegeta, like, what? Goku only learned the basic fucking technique after, like, literally over half a year? Well, no, I'm built different. I'm better. I can, like, he's, like, it's just kind of neat to see Vegeta going back to this area where Goku's been and literally, like, surpassing him, right? Because it's just more fit for what Vegeta's, the power he wants.
Yeah.
And the ability he gets, I actually do like, the fission, because it's like it's a natural counter to, like, fusion and all that, like, and Vegeta even says that he never liked that kind of stuff, so it's just like, I don't know, it's really fitting. And it's a perfect counter for Moro because he's able to, like, separate Moro from the power that he's been stealing.
Yeah, because he had all that talk about, like, using the energy that, like, and the abilities that, like, the strength that you hone yourself, whereas, like, Moro was more about, like, stealing from others, and, like, using abilities that weren't his. And so, like, they had a good, like, ideological conflict there. That was interesting.
Yeah, and, well, I guess not, because that, like, that's been another thing that's been... I guess that's the thing about Super, where it is, in a lot of cases, just kind of retreading, like, Dragon Ball's ground, but it's also, like, it's never really... I don't remember it focusing on that element. Like, it's always been a kind of, like, implicit thing with, like, you know, Cell and Boo, who, you know, take power from these others, but it wasn't really focused on, where in this case it is, right? Or same with Jiren and Teamwork, where, again, that's been there, but it's never been, like, majorly focused or brought up, like, in the dialogue like this. But maybe that's because of Toriyama's different writing style. I don't know. But yeah, it's also cool, like, even if, you know, obviously they aren't as strong, you know, we do get the rest of, like, all the, you know, Earth characters and, the Galactic, like, you get the Galactic Patrol and everyone, like, fighting against Moro, like, there's kind of more, like, unified front against Moro and his men, which is kind of neat to see, because normally it is only, like, the Z fighters fighting, so that they have allies and that they're, you know, I don't know, it was cool. Oh yeah, I forgot there was another character from Zarvan's race who transforms and Vegeta just, like, bodies him.
Yeah, it's another one of those, like, points towards, like, clearly, like, like paralleling the Frieza arc to like use it for their own sort of story here. And that was just kind of another little like tidbit, I guess. Mm-hmm. I thought it was funny though, because it was like, oh, we have this like Bishonen looking like character. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then he did the Zarbon transformation. And I'm like, oh, yeah. What? I should have seen it coming.
But yeah, I'm just like skimming through it. Oh yeah, Yamcha comes back for a change.
all the like, how about the build up for Yamcha, where like in previous arcs they were looking for strong characters, and somebody would be like, "What about like should I get Yamcha?" And then the scene just like cuts off there, or somebody interrupts. But he actually gets to come back and do something. He gets to contribute.
Yay!
Good for him.
Right, well, because, like, there's even the volume cutaway where he's just like, I gotta train, and he's, like, holding a baseball bat. Like, yeah, that's what he's focused. Like, yeah, the universe might not exist tomorrow, but you do you, man.
I might have to check out, like, the baseball episode specifically, just to see how that went.
All I know about is like, Yamcha gets hit by or something happens, and he just does the death pose in a crater, in his baseball uniform, because of course.
I also just remembered that Arale showed up in Super. I thought I remember seeing, but she doesn't show up in the manga, which is
you're right.
Interesting.
Yes. I should read Dr. Slump before I watch Super. I think I'll try to at least, but
I haven't read any more than the one volume I read like months ago.
Sad. Also, there's a little bonus comic where it's showing what Frieza's doing, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, what about the collective control? Won't we be criminals? And it's like, no, we're not criminals, we're running a business. And it's like, okay. Whatever. Oh yeah, Roshi could die because he had the whole thing with the females, the criminals, and I'm like, can you die? I know you're immortal, but...
Yeah, like, when they introduce those characters, I'm like, oh, okay, I wonder what they'll do later. And then it's like, the one group of the female antagonists, and it's like, have Roshi fight him. Yep, that's... He's here. Yep, he sure is a character who is getting screen time and is not dwarfed in power. He can still contribute, even though he passed the torch in the Piccolo arc.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, I don't like, because he does it in the Frieza movie too, where he's just like buffs up and he's fighting Frieza's goons, and it's like, yeah, like, Roshi's just strong now somehow. I guess, sure, all right, whatever.
I mean, I felt like in the Frieza movie, I didn't have as much of a problem with it because it was a really like offhand thing, and it's like, oh, they're protecting the planet, which is like, I guess what they're doing here. Also, so I mean, like, it makes sense. I mean, it felt more like they came to them. I don't know. But also just thinking like in other arcs where I guess Roshi sort of like going back to the original series, there will be points where he's like, I would like to do something, but I'm just so out of my depth that I won't even like bother. Mm-hmm. That, like, there are other people who can do this in my place. Which is, again, the whole, like, there's always someone stronger passing the torch thing. So, I don't know how to feel about him coming back and having a more active role in these arcs. Yeah.
I mean, I will say, at the very least, his stuff in the Universe Survival Tournament was better than this arc. So, if nothing else.
I guess it was kind of funny when he, like, put the blindfold on, and they were like, I've never seen somebody who can, like, fight... who gets stronger by not being able to see, and it's like, okay, yeah.
But anyway, when Vegeta comes back, he starts using the fission, and we get probably my favorite moment in Super, I think, when Piccolo is talking about Vegeta, and it's very reminiscent of like sort of Goku or Vegeta's speech about Goku during the Buu arc, but kind of like inversed almost, because Piccolo's just going like, man, Vegeta's changed a lot. Like, he came to this planet trying to, like, invade it and kill everyone. Mm-hmm. But here he is, defending it against Moro. And I'm just like, it's so good!
Yeah, and, like, I also thought it was neat when they were on the new Namek, and he was like, no, you're not going to harm a single Namekian here. And, he had the conversation with the Elder of, like, do you hold a grudge against me for what I did? And so you're like, yeah, that's cool progression for him.
No, yeah, I forgot about that, because, right, I was even thinking, like, Vegeta literally killed some of these Namekians. Or no, actually, no, they stayed dead because he wasn't one of Frieza's men anymore. That's right.
Yeah, I guess there was also kind of that parallel, with, the guy, Moro's, what was his name? Fucking...
I don't remember.
Cranberry, I think was his name.
It was, yes, that you're right. It was Cranberry.
Yeah, because, like, there's the part where he killed some people, and Vegeta kind of he like winced at that or something. Because it's like, oh, I didn't kill these ones. That was my minion who did that. Or I forget exactly what the context for it was. But Vegeta was like, oh, he was Frieza's minion. Or I mean, I guess he was rebelling against Frieza at that point, but still, it's like close enough of a parallel.
I guess something else because there was like that exchange they had. Because Moro said something about hating peace, like which I don't know. And I felt like, because, you know, the Namekians are also peaceful. Like, they're not even willing to, like, even though they dislike Vegeta, you know, they're not going to, you know, hold a grudge, like, or they're not going to, you know, seek vengeance out on him, I guess, which is, like, you know, so I was like, oh, maybe Moro's, like, you know, he attacks these Namekians and, like, because he dislikes peace, so here he is destroying these peaceful people. But I didn't really get anything more out of that than, except for that, like, little observation, I guess. I don't know if there was something going on there or not, or, so yeah, I don't know, just something I noticed. Sorry, I got background noise.
There was somebody out here like mowing. It sounded like they were mowing a lawn or something, like right before we started recording, but they like just happened to stop like when we were starting, and I'm like, whoa.
Honestly, I don't think I have much more to say about the arc, because like Moro gets the copy ability, he merges with the Earth. Oh, there was the stuff with Maris. That's right, the angel, where he gives up on his existence, basically, for a sense of justice or something. And I guess Goku sort of carries on that will, I suppose, and keeps fighting Moro.
There was the one panel where they very clearly... it looked like at the end of the chapter where, like, Maris, he, like, dies, and, like, there's just a shot of Goku's back, and I'm like, oh, are they gonna do a Super Saiyan transformation? And it was just, you know, for Ultra Instinct. But I guess, like, again, like, looking at the parallels between the arcs, like, I guess sort of the difference here was that with the Super Saiyan transformation, it was very much, like, power guided by emotion.
Yeah, Goku embracing his Saiyan heritage and that anger and that will to fight and becoming, you know, the Super
Whereas,
Saiyan,
like,
right?
in this arc, it was deliberately used, like, the paralleling imagery and stuff seemed to be, like, more used as, like, a deliberate... you know, showing how Goku is, like, clearing his mind and, like, not, you know, like, not being controlled by those emotions. And so it's a different kind of strength. And I guess that was also interesting.
Yeah, like you said with the Namek. Yeah, and see, now that you mention it, like, yeah, this is, it is very much like it's more reflective of the Namek arc than I realized. I should have picked up on it, but I don't know. Good that you noticed it, at least, because I didn't.
Me making interesting observations? Impossible.
About manga you aren't interested in? But yeah, so, you know, we have... And, God damn it, I even noticed how the fucking Moro thing, you know, Moro's, like, begging, and Goku gives him a chance.
Yeah.
And, like, the exact same thing happens. Moro's, like, no different from Frieza, and he uses the power he gets and starts shit again. And it's like, God damn it, Goku doesn't get a break. It's not his fault that the people he fights are evil. But of course, and even I guess similar-ish to Frieza, but not quite, is that because Moro gets more power, but his body can't contain the power he gets, kind of like how Frieza's body couldn't keep up with his max power, basically. You know, so Moro becomes part of the Earth somehow, and you know, they do like a spirit, or they get energy, and
yeah, it was very
energy
reminiscent of a spirit bomb, except they just like throw it at Goku.
Except instead of spirit bomb, Goku does like a kind of Susanoo thing instead, and
See,
it's like, okay,
like, it's almost
I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's also a little silly and weird.
Something that I just realized is that for this being the arc where Vegeta is like trying to distance himself from Goku and like find his own path, he does a lot of things that are just like Goku things. Like, he gets his own little, like, spirit bomb moment, and he gets to show up at the last minute and do a Goku of, like, no, I'm here to save the day.
True.
And I don't know if that's maybe to show that, like, he's getting more on, like, an equal footing with him, or is it counterintuitive to him trying to blaze his own path? I don't know.
I mean, I guess because it's like, the Spirit Bomb thing I'm not sure about, but him just, like, doing a Goku thing and coming in to save the day, like,
well, and also, like, the instant transmission, too. Like, he does it once
yes.
and is like, I don't care if I can ever do this again. I don't care to learn it. It's not my move. But it's still, like, interesting that happened.
Right, no, that is fair. But yeah, like I said, he fucking does Susanoo, and he's able to, they break Moro's gem, and they stop him, and he's dead. Yeah, they have a victory party, and you get an awards ceremony from the Galactic Patrol. Maris isn't dead, he's just no longer an angel, so he gets to be a force of justice still, but yeah. And then it builds up to the next arc. I'm not going to talk about that just because it's like I'll probably just reread that half of the chapter. Actually, I'm going to catch up.
Don't care about the next arc. I'm done. I'm free.
Until for a few years, and then when there's enough material. No, I don't know. We're reading Kinnikuman Nisei! Let's go! All right, no. Anyway, I'll stop bullying Mathwiz. We're finally done with Dragon Ball for real this time. So next time, we're reading Saint Motherfucking Seiya. I hope we like it. So basically, after talking with some people and getting a chapter division, it's actually pretty neatly divided into volumes. So for the first reading, we will be reading volume 1 through 7, which is the first half of the Sanctuary arc. So I hope we like it. Something new. It feels like it's been a while, probably because Dragon Ball wasn't the longest, but we did have a few breaks in there for personal reasons. But yeah, Saint Seiya, let's go. Thank you for listening.
I remember when I was working on my video, and I was like, oh, I have plenty of time before we get to Saint Seiya to potentially do the idea I had for that project. And now we are almost there, and that script has made no progress.
Oh no! Alright, see you next time. Thank you, goodbye.